Welcome to the Be Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw. Today's episode marks our 1-year episode on the map. I'm so excited to say that this makes 24 great episodes and 24 great guests. I'm also grateful for your support and how this past year has allowed for so much growth for us all. I look forward to many more conversations and connections as we move forward. Next episode, as we begin our 2nd year, look for announcements and changes that support balance for all. In this episode, we discuss every moment is a teaching lesson and a learning moment, and each of the 3 segments build a little deeper into the topic. So be sure to listen through to the end for helpful tips, tools, and guidance on how to do the work. In the Skylight segment of today's show, we get to chat with licensed massage therapist, instructor, and author Janet Wolfe Blevins. But before we dive into the Unclouded Heart segment for spiritual messages of wisdom, let's invite ourselves to become present in this moment, in our body, mind, and energy. Take a moment to invite yourself to take some deep and cleansing breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. Inviting your body to relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. Relax, relax. Relax, relax. And as we move into this space of complete relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe, so we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good, and the highest and best good of all involved, as we open up space to give and receive. Every moment is a teaching lesson and a learning moment. One of the messages that I received from my spiritual papa was, if you're not asking questions, then you're in the ground. I'm a huge believer in curiosity and inquisitiveness as a spiritual practice. I also believe deeply that the best way to teach is from the place of the student. If I can stay tuned into learning, as well as what it felt like in the moment that I first learned something, then I can create a bond with those I'm teaching that allows for them to expand into their highest and best self through their own experiences. While I believe that teaching from a place of the learner is important, I also believe that there's a responsibility that we have in teacher and guide to be sure that we have fully experienced something before we bring it forward and turn it into formal teaching. I feel that we must spend time and energy with a concept, understanding, and learning experience to allow it to move through us in the various spaces of who we are before we decide to formally share it. So, while this may feel like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, in my opinion and experience, we must spend time as the student before we shift into the teacher, and then still keep our fingers on the feeling of being the student as we teach. I see this as a beautiful circularization of experience that invites people in order to have their own experiences. It truly is the way to hold space for others to curate and create their own learning path. I also believe that every moment can support this beautiful cycle of giving and receiving in a casual way. That means standing in the grocery store line, I can listen to the checkout person as if they are a great teacher and speak to the person next to me as if they will gain from my wisdom. This doesn't have to be formal or prophesizing. In our everyday experiences, we have so much to share and so much to receive. When this is done with loving mindfulness, then every conversation can allow for us to open up our heart center to give and receive. It makes every being on the planet a great teacher of something, while also honoring and respecting our journey in a way that says others can learn from it. This is the ultimate form of vulnerability and interconnectedness. It allows for our view of the world to shift from judgment and comparison to connection.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Tarot by Sky, because it's your future. Tarot by Sky offers intuitive tarot and energy healing sessions, as well as life coaching, classes, spiritual guidance, and more. Offering sessions via Zoom, email, phone, or in the office in Greensboro, North Carolina, Sky is ready to help you turn change into growth. Book your session today on the web at tarotbysky.com and find her on Facebook and Instagram at Tarot by Sky.
Today, we're happy to invite onto the show licensed massage therapist, instructor, and author Janet Wolfe Blevins. Janet has written programs for massage schools, reviewed massage textbooks, and written her own book, Acupressure for Body Workers and Herbalists, among many of her other life accomplishments. We're excited to have her on the show to talk about every moment being a teaching lesson and a learning moment. And I am really glad to have you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's good to see you.
It is good to see you. So one of the things that my spiritual papa told me was that if you aren't asking questions, you're in the ground. And he had a strong focus on both educating others to help the world heal and keeping oneself as tuned in with wisdom as possible. So what's your take on that? It's like, how do you approach your life? Do you see it in this way, or what's your view on learning and teaching in one?
Well, I love that saying. I think it's very important that we stay connected. And I think we're all connected. It's kind of like that mycelia running through the forest. So we all have those tangles weaving in. And if we're not connected, then that means we could decay and pass away. So I think it's very important to learn and grow. And as long as we're helping each other grow, we're all, what Ram Dass said, we're all walking each other home. Mm-hmm. So we help each other as opposed to trying to climb up the ladder and bypass somebody. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, the overarching view of this podcast is when the one is strengthened, the sum is strengthened. So we know, in doing our work, then we're able to connect in a way that allows others' vibration to rise, or we invite people to be that best version of themselves. So I feel like that's a good way of looking at it. We, even in going back into the ground, we're still giving back something. There's still a circular motion.
That fertilizer for the earth.
Exactly. And, one of the things that I've found, one of the hardest lessons I learned was, if no one's in charge, no one's in charge. And, and that's a tricky thing when it comes to teaching, because I don't like to tell people what to do, and I don't like other people to tell me what to do. So as a teacher, it was a really hard space for me to invite people in a way where I didn't feel like I was, shaking a finger or trying to control their experience, where it was more an interactive experience. And it can be really tricky to be able to do that and have that careful balance between leading without doing the work for the student, or, not leading enough where they kind of feel like they're, not being guided. So how do you accomplish a balance in that sort of space of being present and connective without controlling the experience, or stepping so far back that they don't feel supported?
Yeah, I think a good example would be, I teach a teacher training class for massage therapists who want to teach continuing ed. Mm-hmm. And I tell them right off the bat, these are already licensed massage therapists. So you're just trying to teach them a modality. They already come to the plate knowing stuff. Mm-hmm. So don't hold on to all that stuff like small children, where, you can't eat or drink or chew gum or answer your phone or go to the bathroom and you have to raise your hand. they're adults. So I think it's more of like, if you hold that safe space where learning can grow, people can also share their experiences. I do it this way, and be open to that, because we all have different experiences. But it's all about just holding the space, but not holding the container so tight where you're like this super in charge person and nobody else has a voice. Everybody has a voice. That's why we're all part of the choir, so to speak, singing the song.
Absolutely. I agree. And I feel like, I'm an experiential learner, and I always try and remember that, there are different types of learners. And so, I want to be able to speak to the learner who might be more analytical or logic, but I also want to speak to the intuitive learner and the experiential learner and all the different versions of people who may, be the sum of everything in front of me. And so I think it can help to remember yourself as the student when you're teaching, in order to bring forward that sort of feel to it in that way.
Yeah, and I think we all go through learning. I mean, I study Oriental medicine, and I have been for 26 years, but I'm still learning. I don't think you ever stop learning, because there's always uncovering different layers of that onion and going deeper and deeper and deeper.
I agree. And I think that that's what my papa meant when he said that when you stop asking questions, you're in the ground. It has a lot to do with that. Like, always be curious, always be inquisitive, always be looking for the next layer of what you're trying to look at. Because if you stop that, then, the path stops as well.
Yeah. Chrissy Hine from The Pretenders always had this quote. She said, "I always surround myself with people who are smarter than me, because it helps me grow more."
Yeah, I love that for sure. So I am a huge fan of that curiosity as a tool for learning. Show me and I connect, and I'm able to discover myself. So how would you describe your learning and teaching style? And what do you believe that are strengths and weaknesses when it comes to being able to, if you were to give advice about strengths and weaknesses for someone who's trying to discover through curiosity, what would that be?
First of all, I think one of my favorite acronyms for fear is false evidence appearing real. So I really think to go through, be nervous, but don't have fear about learning something new. Even if you try it and fail the first time, you're going to get better and better at it. So I find that a lot, especially with learning, like people learning the points in the body. They're like, oh my God, there's so many points. I'm like, just start slow. And I think I'm that way. Whenever I learn something new, I want to know everything about it. So I'll try to find all the books and, different videos. I just want to dive into it. It's sort of like going to a great buffet and just like, I want this and this and this, and I want my classes to be like that. I don't want, my classes are not so structured that anybody can come in and feel comfortable, because I still notice massage therapists, when they renew their license, they're still afraid of getting body work, some of them, or being exposed, maybe just physically or emotionally too. And so just still going back to holding that space and letting them sort of like be that flower and open up.
And I think just as a human on the planet, have that energy. Like, you are inviting, and you invite vulnerability through your healthy vulnerability, which says, like, I just am who I am. Here I am, not even love it or leave it, because you're just so okay in it that it's not a question to someone else. It just is to you. And I think whenever we have those spaces of just being that, being who we are, being our authentic self, it invites others and gives them permission to be able to do the same. So I think, especially as a teacher or a guide or someone who's holding the light as they walk forward and others walk with them, like being able to, I don't like the term walk the walk, but it's that walk the walk sort of feeling, like if I'm vulnerable in who I am and I'm asking you to do the same, then you feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah, and it's sharing that, because everybody has experiences, but we're so used to closing that off. What is it, that Rumi quote? A wound is where the light shines in.
Yes.
And we all have that light inside of us. Some people just have to be reminded.
Right. And I feel like it is a remembering of the soul self, a remembering of, before all the learned behavior that taught us something different.
Mhm.
We knew this about ourselves, and then peeling those layers back is
Yeah.
important. So for you, is there anything else that you want to bring forward or that you want to contribute or you think the listeners should hear as far as every moment being a learning lesson and a teaching moment?
Don't doubt yourself. Listen to that inner voice and go for it. That's intuition, that's knowing. And that's your soul or your true essence saying, "Hey, this is it." So I find that too many people doubt themselves. And I'm like, just go for it. If you fall down, get up, keep going.
Right. I love to remind people that one of the greatest parts about being human is we get to make as many choices as we want. And
Exactly.
so one of the Buddhist teachings that I learned was instead of deeming something good or bad, to deem it as skillful or unskillful.
Mhm.
So if we do something, instead of saying I did a bad job at that, if we say, oh, I did that unskillfully, it opens the door for us to attempt again to become more skillful at it. And I
Yeah,
think
there was
that that's,
something on NPR a while back, and it was talking about Thomas Edison and the light bulb. And they're like, he failed so many times. He said, "No, I figured out the right way." Even though he
right.
had those many failures, they were all ways like, okay, that one didn't work. We're going to the next one.
I think it's really valuable and important. And it also leads to looking at things a different way, because
Mhm.
if we fail, so to say, then it's because we had black or white thought process. It was either right or wrong. If we look at it as another attempt or an unskillful, it means like as we're attempting again, we get to have a different vantage point. From which direction am I looking? From where am I seeing this? And tomorrow it might look different, and the next day, and it just gives us that openness to experience.
Exactly.
So I ask every guest 3 questions. And the first is, what do you think it means to be your soul?
Oh, okay. I think it goes back to what I said earlier. The soul is our deep essence inside without all the layers of ego and hurt or blame or trying to hide and be something we're not. So if we're true to our soul, we're true to our essence and what purpose we have in this lifetime and what we're doing and what we're meant to do.
Yeah. And for me also, like when we tune into that authentic self, then that definition of purpose shifts and changes, because a lot of times when we're working in our layers, we believe when we look at purpose, we look at it in a more logical way. I'm supposed to be curing cancer or climbing a mountain. And when we look at our purpose from our soul self, from our authentic self, then we realize like my role on this planet is to live the best version of me. And in living the best version of me, people are going to join in living the best version of themselves. And so it gives that shift too, which I think is important. So the second question is, what's one thing you do no matter what each day to get your self-care in?
I always go wake up before my alarm, and I take that moment to stretch in the bed, and I always start my day with gratitude because I feel like if I do that, then no matter what happens during the day, it's not a big deal. So I think just being grateful, and then when I come to my office to do massage, I go through, that clockwise, the 4 directions, and I do a little sage, and I light my candles, and the day feels right.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of gratitude practice. And I think that, in our heart center, it allows us not only to accept ourselves, but accept what is. If we look in gratitude, then everything is always going to be exactly what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So for you, what does feeling centered and balanced look like?
I think not, and it may be more Buddhist, but I think having non-attachments
Mm-hmm.
to outcomes of stuff. You do the best you can and, be thankful for each day, because what is it? It's a present. They call it the
Mm-hmm.
present. and, not worry about something I did in the past. And that was a hard learning lesson for me because I always worried about, I wish I'd have done that differently. Or I wish, this person would like me. You can't control those things. So
Right.
when I started having non-attachment to stuff, it just opened me up to be freer.
I love that. Yes, that's yummy to me. It's true. So, in that space and connecting, how can people find you? Like, what do you have any upcoming classes or courses?
They can always find me on my website, Sage Dragonfly Workshops, or the Facebook page, Sage Dragonfly. I've got some fun stuff coming out. I'm going to teach Gua Sha in Phoenix. I got invited to go there. And then in May, I'm going to the World Shamanism Festival in Mongolia.
Ooh.
So I like traveling.
I like watching what you're doing while you're traveling. I like traveling too, but I like watching what you're doing while you're traveling. It's just as fun. Well, almost just as fun, I guess. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm super grateful to have had you and to catch back up and to hear all your wisdom. And we also want to send a warm wave of gratitude out to you, dear listener. Thank you for connecting with us today and being present in this moment to allow us to give and receive. Thank you.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Little Energies, a children's chakra-aligned oracle deck. Little Energies is made specifically for children to learn and support their own healthy energy system. These 24 chakra-aligned oracle cards focus on energy wellness through mantras, exercises, and envisioning. Find more information at littleenergies.com. That's LITTLEENERGIES.com.
In this segment, I offer tools and guidance that I have found helpful in my practice, and maybe you will too. This week, we will work on recognizing the balance in giving and receiving from a space of being the learning guide. It is my firm belief that in giving we receive, and in receiving we give. This means that every moment has the possibility of learning as well as teaching, and that balance requires both to be present for wholeness. There are moments in time when this is purposeful, and we set about to be the guide while we learn. And other moments where this happens through experience and happenstance. The truth is, if we are aware and attentive, then every moment can be a teaching lesson and a learning moment. Let's talk about making space to bring that process into your everyday life. In this exercise, we're going to work on taking everyday life experiences and harvesting out the lesson and the teaching moment. For the next 7 days, let's bring clarity to this process in our everyday life. As we go about bringing a heightened sense of awareness, we want to pay attention to these 4 support pieces. Be observant. Have fun. Be curious and inquisitive. And practice non-judgment. So, for the next 7 days, we're going to consciously choose an experience each day to bring a heightened awareness of our learning lessons and teaching moments. That means as we go about our day, or make plans for our day, we choose one experience in which we're going to incorporate this process. Let's say today you plan to go to the grocery store, and we will use that experience as our example. Connect to that experience in the following way. Be observant. Often we do everyday tasks in a fog. It's easy to try and tune out the world in order to guard or protect our energy. The truth here is, the more aware and observant we are, the more tuned in we are to ourselves. That way, we get to decide which energies we allow to connect with us and which ones aren't for us. So, as you make your way through the grocery store, instead of creating tunnel vision focused on your task, open yourself up to be observant of the things around you. Then you can choicefully engage in the things that draw your energy towards them and not connect to the things that don't speak to you. This allows you to be more aware when your teaching moments and learning lessons may come forward. Have fun. I think one of the ultimate goals in life is happiness. It is one of the things that people are often seeking and something that we put beyond ourselves in a lot of cases. When we tune in to have fun and create enjoyment in the smallest situations, then those tiny experiences accumulate into an overall happiness. As you're moving through the store, be observant of your surroundings. Also bring awareness to how you want to have fun. Often, we think of fun as silliness, but the truth is fun is enjoyment in our heart in what we're doing. When we have fun in our heart, people are attracted to our energy and therefore more open to give and receive. So tune in to the little joys of your experience so they can create a larger flow of fun. Be curious and inquisitive. Asking questions and being inquisitive can go a long way. I admire the people who know exactly the right questions to ask at exactly the right time in order to touch someone's heart or allow someone to feel seen and heard. As you are going about your experience through the grocery store or wherever you've chosen to do this exercise, get curious about the experience. Of course, there's a careful line between inquisitive and creepy, but giving yourself space to ask questions or connect in an inquisitive way can really bring forward the student and teacher within you. I think about this in simple ways, like when the checkout person says, "Oh, I love these crackers." That gives me the opportunity to say, "You do? What do you love about them?" Then they can move into sharing in a way that opens up space for both of us. Practice non-judgment. I feel that each moment of the day is an opportunity to practice non-judgment. I also like to remind people that this means non-judgment of self and others. As you're receiving or giving, you want to pay attention to the difference between discernment and judgment. Discernment is a careful thought that allows you to make a heart-centered decision in action that matches it. Judgment comes from a place of being closed off and predetermining how you feel about something before you experience it. If we allow ourselves to stay in a place of just is as we're moving through our experience, then we're more open to receive because we don't have that preconceived notion of what the experience should be. Once you've made your way through the grocery store or wherever you chose, then you can just make some mental notes on where you found yourself being shut down and where you were observant. Where were you rushing through and where were you having fun? At which times were you closing off and when were you being inquisitive? Did judgment show up? And when were you accepting? Since one of the greatest parts of being human is that we get to make as many choices as possible, you can try again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, as you practice this position of being the student and the guide in your everyday life. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be blessed. And may you feel whole.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Be Your Soul podcast. If this exercise spoke to you, then you'll love our Patreon subscriptions, where you'll find video tutorials, guided meditations, PDF worksheets, and more. It's master-level exercises each month for less than the price of a bath bomb. Patreon is a great way to show your appreciation for the hard work and dedication that goes into bringing these messages to you. You can find all our episodes, our Patreon link, guest information, the virtual classroom, and more on our website, beyoursoul.org.